everyone, Rob from Multihog here, and today I'm going to be talking you through our CX75 multi-purpose tractor. So the CX is the compact machine in our range, and it's fully multi-purpose from winter applications to ground maintenance applications. It can be as narrow as 45 inches wide or 1150 millimeters, so it's small enough to fit on sidewalks or narrow pathways in urban and residential areas. So really compact, but also has a lot of power to back it up with a 75 horsepower Kohler diesel engine that's tier 4 final, or in Europe stage 3B. Fully hydrostatic drive with a wheel motor in each wheel, which gives you really good pushing power and good torque for applications like snow blowing and ploughing. The machine's also capable of 25 miles per hour travel speed, 40 kilometers per hour, and with full suspension on the axles as well, makes it really comfortable for the operator. And that's one of the biggest advantages for this machine, because with that suspension, the operator can be fully loaded, attachment front and rear, and maintain that travel speed while being safe and comfortable inside the cab. So a very versatile machine. And what I'll do is I'll take you around to the front and do a full walk around to show you all the features. So on the front of the CX, we have a standard Cat 1, Cat 2, 3-point linkage. So it's very simple for the operator to get attachments on and off. They can switch it over from one attachment to another in 5 to 10 minutes. The hitch itself has 1,200 kg lifting capacity, 2,645 pounds. And what's really nice about this hitch is it has the option for hydraulic rotation. So control from a lever valve within the cab, the operator can move the whole link or angle it left and right. They're also able to float that link. So for applications like ploughing or mowing, they can float the rotation so it stays in constant contact with the ground as the gradient changes. And you can float the height also, which gives really good coverage or really good rideability for different attachments. The machine has options for mechanical PTO and high flow hydraulics. Now, the mechanical PTO is 1000 RPM, and the high flow hydraulics go up to 100 liters per minute or 26 GPM. So that makes the machine so versatile for many different attachments. The quick release couplings that we have on the machine are all flat faced BSB quick release couplings. So pop on and pop off, really simple. On the other side, we have more double acting functions, which are all controlled from the joystick within the cab, and they're all color coded as well. So operators can't mix them up when they're putting them on. A nice advantage of that the joystick controls those couplings is no matter what attachment you put on, it's always the same joystick controlling the attachment. So very simple for the operator to learn. Okay. The cab on the CX has fantastic visibility. That's the first thing you'll notice when you sit inside. You really have 360-degree visibility, which is so important for the safety of the operator. Also for safety, the cab is fitted out with really good lighting. As standard, you have road lights here, high beam, low beam, turn signals or indicators. You've got flashing beacons on the roof. And then you also have options for LED flashers and LED work lights. So lighting, especially in a municipal environment, is always very important. The cab is also ROPS certified and to the standard of EU type approval. So safety for us at Multihog is absolutely paramount, and our engineering team puts a huge amount of focus on that for keeping the operator safe. The cab's also kitted out with heated mirrors as standard, so built for those winter applications. Heated mirrors, heated windscreen. We even have options for heated seats inside the cab. So the CX is an articulating unit. And we put a lot of effort in at Multihog to make sure that the articulation is built robust enough to handle the abuse that it's going to see in the field. So you can see from the thickness of plate that it's built really, really strong. It has 45 degrees of articulation left and right, and it also has oscillation built into the articulation. So the front and back can oscillate from each other independently. And that's so good for stability if you're climbing over uneven ground or climbing up and down curbs. Again, pointing towards the safety emphasis that we have here on the machine. You'll also see that we have fully covered mechanical PTO shaft running through the center of the unit. So there's no exposed spinning shafts on the machine when it's running, even when an attachment is running. So safety is absolutely paramount. Hydraulic hoses running through the machine are also really well packed in the sleeve here in the center, so to mitigate any chafing on the unit. As well, on the safety side of things, we have dual steering cylinders, giving the machine a lot of turning force, but also helps with stability while traveling at speed. Another great advantage of the Multihog CX75 is having great rear mounting carrying capacity. There's loading capacity for 2,645 pounds on the rear deck, so you can have large water tanks, de-icing sprayers, vacuum hoppers for sweepers, or salt spreaders all mounted up on the rear bed. And it's very easy to take them on and off, where they mount directly onto the rear rails here, where no other fabrication or framework is needed, and they're secured simply with these locking pins here. Now, with attachments mounted on the rear, it's really important to keep that center of gravity as low as possible for safety and stability. So you'll notice the rear deck height of the machine is really quite low. So we do a great job of making sure the machine is as stable as possible. Another feature on the machine is we have the optional hydraulic tipping rear, which is super if you have a drop sander and dump body combo, where your drop sander runs out of salt or sand, and you can just hydraulically tip from inside the cab, your rear bed, to refill your sander. So you're maximizing the amount of time that your operator is staying out in the field. Now, one of the key features on the CX is the serviceability access on the machine. Absolutely fantastic. So, panels left and right all open up fully, and then your top bed tips also. So the operator or maintenance crew have full access to the rear chassis, which houses all your engine and main drive components. Also, from a serviceability standpoint, the front cab can be tipped on the CX. So to access components underneath the cab, you can get to that quite easily too. So to tip the rear deck with the hydraulic tipping cylinders, first you gotta undo locking pin here at the front, pull that out, then jump into the cab, and now with the rear deck out up, you can really see how good that access is. Okay, so onto the rear chassis of the CX. So the first thing you'll see here are these rear mounting rails. So for mounting implements like the rear drop spreader, they can bolt straight on to these rear mounting rails really easily. In terms of the hydraulic capacity on the back of the machine, it's just as versatile as the front, where we have high flow hydraulics up to 100 litres per minute on the rear, and then we have also some extra double acting functions for, say, tipping a vacuum hopper on the back. We also have options for rear view cameras on the machine. So if you're considering mounting something like a water tank on the back or something that might hinder some of that visibility, that's a great option to have, where you have a clear large display in the cab and the operator can always see then what's happening at the rear. The grille on the back of CX is really open for great airflow, and this machine is kitted out with the optional variable pitch reversing fan, which is a fantastic feature to have if you're going to be cutting any grass. So the operator can turn that on and the fan will automatically reverse at set intervals to keep the radiator clear, so they don't have to get out to clear that off themselves. You'll also notice the number plate bracket and number plate light here, because the machine is type approved as a tractor and can be registered for road use, and it has that 25 mile per hour or 40 kilometer top speed, which is perfectly adequate from traveling from point A to point B around a municipality or town area. Down here you'll see a blank plate where you can mount optional or a variety of different tow hitches, as the CX has 3.5 ton towing capacity with a braked trailer, which is amazing for such a compact machine like this to have that. So it really shows you how strong a unit the CX is. Then on the lighting, we have standard brake lights and turn signals, and we also have optional LED flashing lights. So again, for that safety, really good lighting options on the unit. Okay, so one last thing to point out is the water line option on this machine. So if you have a water tank mounted on the rear, you can run a line to that and have water to the front of the machine, safe for a broom, without having any extra hoses running around the outside of the machine. So a nice feature to have if you're considering any water on the unit. Okay, around this side of the machine we have our diesel tank, which, as I said before, this panel opens up all the way, giving you that great serviceability access on the unit. Simple as that. Then over here you have an isolator switch and 2 external jump points for a 12-volt battery, and that battery is located inside this panel here, so it's well protected from the elements. You have rear LED work lights mounted on the rear of the cab. Another great option if you're going to have an implement on the back like de-icing or spreading, so you can see clearly the coverage you're putting down. And then you have your air intake here, which is mounted at a high point to limit the amount of debris or fine dust that's getting in there, so it helps keep that air filter cleaner for longer on the machine. Alright, so we're going to jump into the cab now so I can show you some of the features in there, but firstly just to show you how to get into the machine safely. So you have your 3 points of contact on the machine, handle here or handle here or here, and then using the step. Okay, first thing to do when you jump into the CX is making sure you're comfortable in the seat. So the CX has an air ride seat, and you have a toggle between your legs where you lift it up to let air in or push it down to let air out. Down in the right you have a lever for moving it forward and back. And then on the steering wheel, you've got tilt and telescopic adjustment on the steering wheel. So getting comfortable with that as well. Now, over on the left, you have adjustment for your heat and AC on the machine. And then you'll notice here, we have a number of air vents on the left, on the floor, and also over here on your right for adjusting for airflow. So this CX is kitted out with the sliding window option, good for letting fresh air in. It's also curved too, so it doesn't block your view of the side mirrors on the unit. Alright, so all your controls are over here on your right side, and to run you through these, at the very back we have our joystick unlock button. So once the operator is out of the seat, the joystick is locked as a safety. So if they want to control the joystick from outside the cab, they have to press that button down and then they'll be able to move the joystick. Then you have your safety switches for your PTOs. So on this machine we have both the mechanical PTO option and the hydraulic PTO, and there are also safety switches too, where you have to slide the red tab back before you can push them down. Now we have our lever valve sections. So this machine is kitted out with the 4 lever valve block, where it has A and B auxiliary double acting functions. These can be used if you have a batwing mower with hydraulic controlled wings, and you can actually float those functions, so you could float the wings of the batwing mower. Then you have your lever valve for controlling the rotation of your hitch, which also has a float position. And then you have your lever valve for controlling your tipping rear. Then your joystick. So for controlling all your normal functions of the attachment, simply left and right, forward and back, and then you've color-coded buttons for controlling other functions. Onto the keypad here, controlling your speed. You've got first, second and third speed selections on the CX. Third speed giving you that full 25 mile per hour or 40 kilometers per hour. You've got control over your drive modes on the unit. So the CX is kitted out with a drive mode, which is very simple: accelerator and brake, forward, neutral and reverse on the joystick. And then a work mode for controlling your attachment. And in work mode you can control your engine RPM on this toggle here, and also control a cruise speed or a creep speed here, which is great for something like snow blowing. So that's a really good feature for when you're working the attachment. Also, you've got control of your differentials on the unit. As standard, you get first stage hydraulic differential. That'll give you a lot of extra traction working in snow or off-road and wet conditions. And then there is an optional second stage for even more traction, and that's a momentary feature. Very useful if you're going to be in really heavy snow with this machine. Control over your work lights and heated mirror on the keypad also. And then button for reversing fan option, which this machine also has. That's great for those mowing applications to keep grass off the rear. Once you switch that on, that will reverse automatically at set intervals. So the joystick here for controlling all your attachment functions, very simple. Forward and back controls your hitch height. You also have a float position for the hitch where you lock it forward. Left and right controls your double acting couplings, and then you have a combination of these color coded buttons here where you can hold down the red and move it left and right to control your red color coded couplings, and then yellow left and right for your yellow couplings. Forward, neutral and reverse is located on the joystick also, which is great because the operator doesn't have to take their hand off of the joystick when changing direction. And then you also have a latching button here for controlling switchable power to the front trailer socket on the unit. Up here in the top right corner you've got your rear view camera screen, and that screen's always on, so even if you have an attachment on the rear like a water tank blocking some of your view, you can still see out the back with the camera. Down on the floor to the right of the steering column we have our accelerator and brake pedal. And over on the left here we have our inch pedal, which is used in conjunction with the creep speed or cruise speed setting, where you can limit the hydrostatic drive to slow the machine down, and once you let it off it will resume the speed that you had set previously. So the stalk here on the left, that controls your turn signals or indicators, switching between high beam and low beam, your wipers, and also you have a horn here too. On the steering column in front of the steering wheel we have switches for park brake, flashing beacons and LED flashers, hazard lights, and then also control for your headlights as well. Then to the right of that you have your digital dash, which has all your normal information for the operator like fuel level, speed, engine temp and engine RPM. Alright, jumping out of the machine, you want to do it the reverse of the way you came in, but firstly you want to give yourself as much room as possible. So putting your steering wheel fully up and then jumping out, maintaining your 3 points of contact. Simple as that.